is Kate Tilleczek, and I'm the Canada Research Chair in Youth, Education, and Global Good at York University. And I also direct the Young Lives Research Laboratory, where I'm so pleased and privileged to be able to be part of many projects that look at the relation and interrelation of young people and education, including this RCYP project and many others that are going on right now that look at youth-centered educational research projects. So I have 5 minutes, and so I'm going to make 4 points, 5 to 7. But I also want to begin by saying that I'd like to open up an invitation to discussing a potential book project. And Debbie and I do have a prospectus for a book about education and young people in the Americas. And so I'll come back to that at the end. But anyone who's writing in that area or wants to do so, come on and see us, because I think we can hatch a lot of really important collaborative writing projects for sure. So point number 1. This talk and the book, I hope, is called The Crucible of Modern Education, Lessons from and with Youth in the Americas. So why would I be so melodramatic about modern education, call it a crucible? Well, we know that a crucible is a vessel that holds and withstands enormous heat in which new elements are forged. It's a place or a situation that concentrates forces that interact and cause change and development. So it's a really compelling, kind of fiery metaphor for us to think through what's happening in modern education. And as Victoria nicely put, we have to continue to think about it because changes in the globe happen. So our young people are being formed and forged in this crucible of modern education, so we need not to ever stop wondering what it looks like and what are the institutional practices within that we need to see and be critical of. And of course, we know that this heat comes from a long history of the misuse of education as a tool of colonization, and I would want to argue a recolonization that's now happening for young people on the planet. They're really becoming disenchanted, and I'm so happy to hear your work that you're doing. With many of the forms of education, young people are becoming commodified, schools are for profit, people are making money on their tuitions or student debts, etc. Their identities are being taken and sold, their privacy to big tech. There's environmental degradation. So can education address this, and how? And one of the young people we're working with in southern Chile at the moment put it this way, which I really love. We need to make a real change in education because we seem to be meeting the needs of governments and not the well-being of learning for students. Couldn't agree more. So what's going on? Point number 2, it's clear to me in the work that I am privileged to do that young people have deep concerns for the planet and for education. There are almost 2 billion young people on the planet today, we now know. They comprise about 25% of the Earth's population, which is the largest cohort of young people in the history of the world. So they're in this distinctive position to really help us think about some of these concepts we're looking at, like the Anthropocene or the Technocene or the Capitalocene, or however we want to talk about this modern present that is now. In fact, we'd like to suggest that youth are the face of the United Nations, Sustainable Development Goals, because they're a navigational force between the old worlds and new worlds, traditional and modern thinking, and they're there. So let's take, for example, Greta Thunberg, the 16-year-old Swedish activist. Has anyone heard of Greta yet? Maybe just a show of hands if you. She's a phenomenal young woman. She's just been nominated for Nobel Peace Prize for her environmental and social justice. And she and her peers, what amazes me is they connect the dots so well in terms of social, historical, economic, and political action and inaction that has created this Anthropocene and put it in motion. So just last week, 1.5 million young people around the planet walked out of school and they staged a school strike. And so this gives me enormous hope to listen to and learn from our young people. Greta's been followed, she's got 2 million viewers on YouTube, but if you don't know her, go find her. She's got a TEDx talk, she spoke at the UN, she spoke at Davos World Economic Forum, and she's really a force to be reckoned with. Point number 3, we're particularly interested in how young people imagine and reimagine education and well-being and sustainable livelihoods. So we have to invite them into meaningful dialogue to create intergenerational partnerships for new schools. And Debbie and I are privileged to work alongside the Wichi people of southern Chile. We've been working on a Global Affairs Canada project there for the last 7 years, and we continue with other projects now. It's called Wikimoon, a school with and for youth and communities. And in the indigenous language Mapudungun, Wikimoon means the integration of modern and traditional knowledge. And the young people we've been working with there have become, they are the anthropologists. They're the ones who are going into their communities to learn from their elders, their families, their peers, with others. They're doing an incredible job at telling the adults what it is a school should look like. What should the institutional practices be? The relationships, the curriculum, the structures, the pedagogies. And what they really want is a rehumanizing education. They want their classrooms to be in an old-growth forest, so hey, that's where we are, which is beautiful, the school, and seafronts and archaeological sites, etc. So they've taught us so very, very much that we'd really like to share, and I like the idea of flipping this around, that the young people are providing the answers and the directions to us. So last point, let's collaborate on books that really open up the space of young people to write about a better form of education for the modern era.